Welcome to the second lesson. In this lesson we're going to continue with mapping out the neck, but now we're going to find where all the bar chords need to be, because from the bar chords we're going to find the major pentatonic scale that we're going to use to solo with. Let's take a look now at the neck. Now the first chord we're going to look at barring on the neck is an E major chord, which is normally played with these fingers here. Now what we're going to do is substitute the fingers we have down for these fingers. Put your middle finger on the third string, first fret, and put your third finger on the fifth string, second fret, and your little finger on the fourth string, second fret. As you can hear, it's the same chord. Now our first finger, which I'm waving around here, is free to do some barring on the neck. Now, you probably know this already, but the shape I'm holding down is giving us a major sounding chord. And major chords, as is often said, they sound rather happy. Minor chords, which I can get by lifting my middle finger off, have more of a sadder tone to them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move that E chord along the neck one position like this. Now what I have to do in order to make it sound like an E that's been raised up is to put my bar right across the first fret here. And as you can hear, it's still a major sounding chord, but it's been shifted up and the pitch is slightly raised. So from here up to here, we've increased the pitch by one semitone, or as is often referred to on the guitar, a half a step. So we've gone from an E major chord to an F major chord, because remember the root note or the key note, that is the identifying note of the chord, which is on the sixth string. Remember, it was an open E for the E chord here, has now shifted to the first fret of the sixth string, so it now identifies this chord as an F major. Now, by continuing along the neck and finding where the chords go in terms of what key they are, or what the name of the chord is a very important step for us to start working on the scales that we're going to use, which will be the major pentatonic scale. So let's quickly continue and get these chords mapped out along the neck. Let's take a look now. Now I'm barring at the first fret with an E major shape again. Listen to the chord. And that is an F chord. Now to continue along, remember that the key note or the root note which identifies the chord is wherever it is you're barring on the sixth string with your first finger. So if this note here is an F, then when I bar there and do an E major chord, then that is an F major. Now let's continue along. From F up to G was 2 frets, so we move the entire chord down. We have a G chord here, G major. If I drop back a fret, we have either a G flat major or an F sharp major. Now let's continue along. We have G major here at the dot, this dot on the third fret. We go up 2 frets to A, the next dot. There's an A major. We'll go up to B major, and we'll go up to the next dot, which if you remember was C sharp major, and finally the last dot at the 12th fret, which was a E major again. Now we're going to locate on the neck a C major chord barred as an E shape. Here's how we're going to do it. Now, this is the 7th fret at the dot point. Any idea what that note is? Well, you should be able to name it very quickly. It's a B. If you recall from lesson 1, this was an A, we've gone up to B. Now, from B to C on the guitar was only a jump of 1 fret. So at C, this is the 8th fret, this is where we're going to bar, and this is where we're going to place our E major shape, and we're going to play it, and that is a C major chord right here. And as you can hear, although it's played as an E shape at the 8th fret, it sounds very much like the C chord that most people are familiar with in the first position down here. The only difference being, of course, that you have some higher notes on the treble strings. Now, it's from this bar chord at the 8th fret, which is a C major, that we're going to begin learning the pentatonic scale. Now, before we do this, I want to mention the fact that the pentatonic scale, in addition to being used for blues and rock and a lot of pop phrasing for soloing, this scale actually is extremely old and has been used for hundreds and hundreds of years. In fact, a lot of folk songs use melodies from the pentatonic scale. Once again, if you have a piano in the house, or if you grew up with a piano or learnt the piano, you've probably discovered by accident the pentatonic scale. By simply hitting all the black notes on the piano, that is a pentatonic scale. And if you hit them randomly, it's quite hard not to make something that doesn't sound very musical. In other words, if you hit those black notes, you'll very quickly come up with some nice musical phrases of a melodic nature. Now, I'm going to play to you a few little Scottish folk songs to see if you're familiar with them. See if you recognize this famous Scottish folk song. That's "Oh Danny Boy." Here's another one. "Over the Sea to Sky." Now, if you can believe this, the pentatonic scale actually goes back even further than hundreds of years to possibly 2000 BC with early Oriental music. Again, very familiar sound that we're all imprinted to hearing from hundreds and thousands of years of music. Now, we're going to learn the pentatonic scale as it relates to the C major chord. Remember the one we're barring at the 8th fret. Now, this scale pattern we're going to learn across the neck rather than along the neck, and we're going to structure it in a way that we play 2 notes on each string. Let's have a look at the neck and let's learn this scale. Now, I'm barring at the 8th fret with my E major shape chord, and if you listen to it, that is giving me a C major chord. Now, the pentatonic scale we're going to use is back from here this way along the neck, structured in a way using 2 fingers per string. Now, before I show you this scale, I want you to understand and consider the fact that right where the bar chord is, there is a pattern like this with 2 notes per string that cuts right across where the bar chord is itself. But this pattern is rather awkward to use, and although it will be laid out in the written material with 5 other positions where you can play across the neck, the one that's the easiest to develop phrases and musical solos from is the one that's back a little ways from the bar chord. So we've got an 8th fret bar here. Here's our chord, and we're going to do this. We can put our little finger on the 8th fret, which was where our bar was, on the 6th string, or we can put our little finger on the 8th fret of the 1st string. Now, these 2 notes are identical, they're both C, so it doesn't really matter. In fact, I suggest you learn the scale pattern from both ways across, from the 6th string across to the 1st and from the 1st across to the 6th. Let's start with the 6th string. There's our C. Now, I said we were going to structure it with 2 notes per string, so we'll use A on the 5th fret, 6th string. So we have C, A, C, and then we climb across 2 notes all the way to the 1st string. I'm going to call these notes out. Let's start again. C, A, back to C, up to D, up to E, across to G, up to A, across to the third string on the dot, which is a C, a D. On the second string we have E, and we have G, and we have A, and we have C here again. Now, to conclude this lesson, what I would advise you do is practice the scale and get familiar with it, but also play it in a way that you're alternating your picking. Because when it comes to soloing, if you want to play with some speed, it's always advisable to pick in an alternating fashion. That is, every downstroke is followed by an up, etc., like this.